Yeah, get all the food off my shirt. Jeez Louise.
Can't you just fix it in post?
Yes. Oh, man. My favorite thing.
All right, and welcome back to another season of Airdrie Inside. My name is Chris Glass. I am your host, and I am here with Jeremy Pollock. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Now, little known fact, we live on the exact same street in Prairie Springs, so you've been a neighbor of mine for a long time.
That's right, yeah.
And so I'm excited to have you on the show because I think you have a pretty fantastic story here that I want to tell.
I'm ready. I'm all ears, man. What do you want to hear?
Well, for one, I'm always fascinated with the scope and the depth of the arts and culture community here in Airdrie. And, you know, for a city of 94,000, I think we're really punching above our weight when it comes to what's being accomplished here. Mm-hmm. And, I had the luxury of being at a film screening of yours on November 11th, on Remembrance Day, when you debuted the Lee Major story. And I never knew that this type of filmmaking was happening in our city. Yeah. And it opened my eyes. Like I was telling my producer off screen, this wasn't just Airdrie good. This was good. And I thought I'd want to tell that story. So I want you to come on and tell me a little bit about it and how your roots in Airdrie really took over.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess I'll start in Airdrie. Like, this is my third time living in Airdrie now, I think.
Third time's a charm.
It's going to stick, yeah. Yeah, I went to school. I went to elementary, middle school here. I was born in Bassano, and then I moved to Calgary when I was about 8 or so and lived there for about a year. And then I did a few years in Airdrie before I left and moved to the States. I lived in Georgia for a number of years, and then I lived in Texas as well.
Oh, wow.
And then I came back to Airdrie to finish high school. So I was actually a Mustang.
Perfect. That's good. We're one for one.
Yeah, the very first year of the Mustangs in terms of football. So we were the very first year. And I came from a Texas football, right? So we had a $5 million stadium. We had 2 news crews that would come out and record us the whole time. And we were the Keller Indians. We had a teepee with smoke, and we would bust through the paper and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It was full on
the whole Friday Night Lights experience.
And then we came back to Airdrie, and it was, hey, guess what, guys? We're going to share these bleachers for 40 people with Bert Church and George Mack, and you guys, we could shuffle them back and forth, every game. And I was like, okay, this is a little huge difference. Yeah. So I finished high school here in Airdrie, and did some traveling myself. I was a bit of a nomad for a long time until my wife kind of settled me down, and we started having some kids in Calgary. And then we outgrew our home. And then it was, time to move.
That's a familiar story too.
Yeah, probably similar to yours, I would say.
Yeah, I moved from Calgary, born and raised in South Calgary. So Dr. E.P. Scarlett was my high school. I coached there for a little while. But then my WestJet career took me up to Edmonton, thinking that Edmonton and Calgary were very similar. And I found out that they're nothing alike, even though they're very close. They're very different cultures in different cities, and I was really homesick. So I knew I was going to come home, but ran into a bit of an affordability crisis back in 2006 when houses were going crazy, and ended up settling in Airdrie, and then never looked back. So similar story to a lot of people of kind of, as your family grows, your situation grows, you need more bang for your buck. Yeah.
And I completely agree about the arts community here. I've run into dozens and dozens of people that are higher up marketing managers, and there's tons of other actors and filmmakers here in town as well. So it's a real it's a small, not, I wouldn't say tight knit, because I'm trying to kind of gather people a little bit together. I've actually got a Facebook group called the Airdrie Filmmakers Group, which doesn't exist. There's nobody on it. Don't, you're not missing anything. But I know
that I have a camera, you're going to have to add me to it.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, there are quite a few people here that are in the arts community, and not just dabbling, but thriving. That's kind of their main bread and butter job. Yeah.
And that's, again, when you think of Airdrie, we're starting to see people actually consider Airdrie to be a center here, and I'm really looking forward to what kind of creativity can come out of the Inspire Center as well. Now that we have that beautiful facility that's designed for that creative space. I think we've done a pretty good job athletically here, with the renovations at Ed Edgar and what's coming up with the Southwest Rec Center. But this facility for the arts and culture community is just like getting a brand new field or getting a new rec center. So it's pretty exciting times. Yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot too. And I was really excited to be able to screen Leo Major there in my, home province for the first time on Remembrance Day. It was really, real special moment. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's the next thing I was going to ask about. So your company is called Dreadnaught? That's right. Dreadnaught, okay. So tell me a little bit about the genesis of Dreadnaught. Yeah, well, as I mentioned, I was kind of, moving around a lot after high school. I went to Australia for a while. And then from there, I came back to Calgary and I was working as a filmmaker, trying to get off the ground and stuff. And while I was, after I graduated from college, I was working as a 3D modeler in the 3D space for quite some time. Okay. So I was working on some children's TV shows and some commercial programming and stuff like that. And it just so happened that and then at night I was actually a bouncer at a nightclub. So which one? I was the Capitol. Oh, wow. You're taking me back. I'll go further back than that, man. Yeah, with my buddy used to work at Three Cheers. I kind of subbed in for a while for him. That was on Electric Ave, if you remember. I do remember. So the Capitol on 9th, and then I was at I did like some jobs at Cowboys and kind of all around the place. But after the TV pilot that we were working on, this children's TV, it was a Christmas TV pilot for this children's show. After we finished that, nothing ended up happening and the studio ended up shutting down. Oh, wow. And then that same week, I lost my job as a bouncer as well. The nightclub shut down. So I was literally like 2 jobs and went to 0. And one of my buddies turned to me and he said, hey, I used to live in Seoul, South Korea. I used to teach English over there amongst other jobs. He's like, why don't you come with me? And we can make a little bit of money. And then once we have some money, we can go to Los Angeles and we can start working in film. We can make a film over there. And I was like, that sounds like a crazy idea. Yes. Sounds like a movie in itself. Yeah, right. Like, yeah. And I had nothing else going on. I was young and K-pop film hunters or right? Something like that. So I moved to Seoul and I lived there for a number of years. I was there for about 2.5 years and doing various jobs and weird stories. That's a whole other podcast. But after that, I did end up going to LA and I lived there for a little while and we did finish a short film there. We were working on a second one when some financial issues happened, had to come back to Calgary. And from there, we did a couple more short films, but eventually that kind of crew ended up dissolving a little bit. And I worked at Chorus Entertainment for a number of years after that. And I don't know if you remember, again, we're taking it back. I go way back in the Calgary region, so we're good. The TV listings channel? Yes. It would scroll, and then there was a little ad on the side of that, right? Yeah. Little crappy, whatever, not even Home Hardware, Al's Hardware ad or whatever. Yeah. That was me and 7 other people. We would make those, just constantly cranking those out. So I did, I think at the height of it, I was doing something ridiculous, like 500 ads a year, I should say. Because we would do still frame ads and we would do motion ads. Yeah. And eventually we convinced them to buy a camera and like we could actually go and start shooting these little crappy ads. So that was kind of utilizing my 3D motion design skills, but then also kind of getting more into the live action space and like shooting more commercials and whatnot, and doing them fast as well, which is really important for that industry at that particular time. So I had hundreds and hundreds of ads under my belt, nothing that I was proud of, but I knew that I was quick and I was decent at After Effects and a decent enough editor that eventually when that arm of Chorus shut down, I was able to just start up my own business, which became Dreadnaught, and I had clients right away because all of these ad reps that were working for Chorus, they still had clients, even though the channel was gone. These clients still wanted their ads out there on regular
TV space and whatnot. So they called me up literally the next day and were like, hey, do you still want to work on Al's Hardware? Do you still want to work on this commercial, whatever? So I was kind of doing that for a little while. I just kind of kept my chorus job going until eventually I was able to phase those out and start getting some kind of proper clients in my mind. Yeah.
So, and then is that still work you're doing on the side as opposed to the bigger projects, the passion projects that you're working on, or just?
Yeah, I have a lot of corporate clients. I still do lots of, I still do some oil and gas clients. I used to do a ton of beer clients. I was working for like Big Rock and Coors Light, Bud Light. Still do a lot of work with Rogers every once in a while. With NHL, I do the media days for the Flame. I was doing the media days for the Flames, the Oilers, and the Canucks for quite some time.
Wow.
So yeah, I've got a couple decent corporate clients that I work with, but in the last kind of 2 or 3 years, it's been trying to move more into the film space, which is where my passion lies and what I've been wanting to do.
Now, on November 11th, on Remembrance Day at the screening, I learned something that I hadn't known as a Canadian before. And that was shocking to me that I didn't know the story you were telling. I consider myself a pretty big history buff of Canadian history, even around that World War II era.
Right.
So tell me, what got you interested in this story and what piqued your interest?
Yeah, it was just like you. I'm a kind of a Canadian history buff, and I was online one day and kind of surfing around, and I came across an article that was like the most top 10 most badass war heroes that you've never heard of. And Leo wasn't even listed on the article. It was in the comments section on page 2. Somebody's like, "Oh, you forgot about Leo Major from Canada," and I was like, "Wow, who's this guy?" So
with a great name, first of all, like
fantastic
that's
name.
You can't. That's straight out of central casting of name, right?
Exactly. So
Major Striker.
So I did a quick Wikipedia search, and as I was reading, the hair on my arm stood up. I was like, "This guy is unbelievable. His story is crazy," and the fact that I didn't know about him, it kind of I went through this whole range of emotions of like I've stumbled onto a pot of gold, but then I got angry and frustrated at the fact that there shouldn't be a reason why I don't know that. Why do I not know this guy's story, right? And that kind of started me on my journey of getting this documentary off the ground.
Now, Canada has had a long history with the Netherlands when it came to World War II and all of that. Can you give our listeners a sneak peek into what the story is?
Of course, yeah. So Private Leo Major was a Canadian soldier during World War II. As he enlisted, he was in the Regiment de la Chaudière, which is the Boilermakers, French-Canadian group. And they went to, as they were going to England for training, he was just kind of a different soldier. He wasn't the kind of guy who would go out and party and kind of look for girls. He was constantly training. He was boxing. He was training to be a sniper. He was, and he wouldn't even really wear the right uniform. Back then the boots had metal nails to put the sole on, which would clack as you walked, right? So he would wanting to be a sniper and be silent,
can't stand out.
Exactly. So he would wear his tennis shoes, which was kind of like a forbidden type of thing as well. So he was always kind of a different guy. And then as he kind of as the war progressed and he was carrying on, he was out on a scouting mission one night, and he came across some Germans, and there was a bit of a firefight back and forth, and one of the Germans threw a phosphorus grenade, and it hit him in the face, and it blew up in his face, and he lost sight in his eye. So he wore an eye patch for the duration of World War II.
Which almost adds more to the legend.
Exactly.
Like how many eye patch heroes do you see out there that are based
Nick
on
Fury
real life?
And,
right.
Nick Fury. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, the famous quote is, "As a sniper, he only needs one eye to see," was something that he was heard saying. So yeah, so he's so he's kind of getting a bit of a legend going on. His legend is growing. Even the Germans kind of knew a little bit about him. They called him the I forget the French translation. It was like the one-eyed ghost is what he was known as. So here he is. It's April 13th, 1945. The Canadian infantry are moving north through the Netherlands, kind of just about an hour east of Amsterdam, in close to a little city called Zwolle.
Yeah.
And the word on the street was that the Canadians were just going to bomb the city, get rid of the rest of the Germans that were in there, because, the Americans were over in Germany taking over. They were getting close to Berlin, getting close to Hitler. The Canadians and the English were kind of left to do the cleanup
work,
right?
Yeah.
So they're cleaning up all the cities, pushing the Germans towards Germany, essentially. And he said, no, we don't need to bomb this city. Let me go out. I'll do a scouting mission. We'll kind of search around there and see what we can do and who's left, kind of thing. So as that was happening, Leo and his buddy Willie were going on a scouting mission, and as they were heading towards Zwolle, they got into a firefight with some Germans. Willie ended up dying, unfortunately.
And they weren't just friends from the war. They went back in time. They've known each other for a long time.
That's
so
right.
That was
They kind of went up through the military ranks together. So it wasn't just a guy. It was literally his best friend. So he, Leo being Leo and not wanting to give up, he decided he was going to carry on with this scouting mission, and he went into the city of Zwolle, and he, using kind of grenades and shooting his machine guns around, he made it seem like there was more Canadians around than there actually were. And when eventually he got to the center of the city, he ran into a German officer and had a conversation with them and said, look, the city's surrounded.
War's over.
We're going to kill everybody that's in here unless you guys get out right now. And the German pulled out his Luger and put it on the table, passed it to Leo. Leo took it, passed it back and said, I don't want that. Just get out of the city. And they all got up and left. And by the time the sun came up the next day, all the Dutch people had come out of the city and realized that there was no more Germans left. And they had a big kind of celebration. And that was kind of it for Leo. It was kind of like a little bit of a celebration. And then he kind of went on with the rest of his life until kind of 1970s, when the people from Zwolle really took notice of what actually happened during World War II. And they decided, hey, this guy saved our city. Get it? And Zwolle, I've been there a couple times now, and it's just it's so old compared to what we have here in Canada, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about bridges that are from the 1600s. And, just these so much history. So for him to save the city and save the people, it meant a lot to them. And they still kind of sing songs about him and talk about him. And they bring him up during their Remembrance Day, which is May 5th in the Netherlands. And, we don't talk about him here, right?
Yeah.
There's just no, unless you're in Montreal, where he's from, hardly anybody knows his name.
Do you think that has to do with the Canadian humbleness, that kind of aw shucks worldview that we have? Or
I do. I think that's a little bit of it, and I also think it's kind of it's a reaction to what's happening in America. We kind of look at America and we see them grandstanding and pumping their chest and waving the American flag and stuff. And for right or wrong, we see that and we go, we're not going to do that. We're going to do the opposite of that. And I think in some cases it makes sense, but when it comes to our war heroes and people that we should be celebrating, we shouldn't take that route. We should pump up the people that have done great things for us and for Canada, and we should celebrate them. And we can be that way a little. We can be that way in our own way, right?
Right.
But for whatever reason, I think we do take that aw shucks kind of humbleness and let's not talk about the things we've done that are great.
Right. And I keep coming back to that. With the Netherlands, how I believe there's a story where they send us flowers every year, and it's an overwhelming amount of flowers in Ottawa. I think it's tulips, if I can remember correctly. And just that bond goes back and will never be broken. It's just a friendship based on the work we did back in World War II. And, my grandfather fought in that war. So to hear the history being told in the way that it was told on Remembrance Day was pretty amazing. Talk to me about making a film, though. Right? Because not only did you make a film that was very high quality, but you made a period piece. There's not a lot of World War II equipment just sitting around. So talk to me about the challenges of setting up that actual scene, because it did look like I was watching something out of World War II, not a reenactment or that kind of thing. Right. So what were the challenges like trying to find the right look and feel?
Almost insurmountable. It was a lot of work putting it together. And I think the reason was I had a lot of ambition when I first started. This is maybe a year of coming off working at Chorus, which I mentioned earlier. And that was, me being fast at editing, putting things together as quickly as possible, and a lot of ambition and a lot of creativity in my head.
Right.
But when it comes to the actual work itself, not a lot of experience. So I first got started kind of setting up some interviews, and I went to Ottawa and I interviewed a war historian and another gentleman who was in the film. I interviewed him way earlier in a little hotel room and got some stories out of him. But after I came back and kind of started cutting it together, I realized this doesn't look good. So I, and then of course money's always an issue. Trying to get money and it's a period piece, and a lot of it takes place not here in Alberta. So there's a lot of flying. There's a lot of interviews that need to be done. So there's a lot of stops and starts along the way. But once I finally kind of got my stuff together and was ready to kind of shoot the reenactments here in Alberta, it was a couple of guys. One being a guy named Greg Auck, who is his job as an armorer on set for feature films. He actually came off of the Jumanji 2, maybe.
You were saying that at the screening.
Yeah.
You went from that to a period
my
piece.
little set.
That's great.
Exactly. So he comes from multi-million-dollar set of with The Rock and Kevin Hart and Jack Black and all those guys to like my little movie with nobody in it.
You could have had Kevin Hart. He's doing every movie.
We'll find a place for you, Kevin.
Just wouldn't have really made sense.
He's like a one-liner off the side or something. But yeah, so Greg was really instrumental in terms of getting the war reenactors together, because he's part of that crew as well here in Calgary. And he introduced me to a fellow who unfortunately passed away. His name is Rod Siccato. And he's the guy who owned the majority of that stuff that was in the film, the tanks, the Jeeps, the motorcycles, the locations as well. That barn set where they were doing the kind of initial setup, that was his spot. Right outside of it was where the tank and all that stuff were driving around. And then there was another set that we used. This footage never made it into the show, but he had this house not very far away from where we were also shooting. And man, we had there's just two stories from that. One was that the house was it was meant to be torn down. It wasn't livable. In fact, it looked like when we were going there to the location scout, it looked like somebody had done a murder in the house. There was a clawfoot bathtub upstairs, and it was full of blood, and there was blood on the walls and everywhere. And we were walking around and walking up there, and we looked down, and we all kind of look at each other and look down and look at each other like, should we call the police? I don't know what to do right now. This is really sketchy. Turns out it was fake. It was some kind of staged something that somebody had done. But then right kind of just to the south of that house was two old barns that were also meant to be torn down. And kind of after we were done shooting one day, Rod goes, "Hey, do you want to run over one of those barns with the tank?" And I was like, "What? Of course I do. Why are you even asking me that? Of course I do."
It's not a question.
So there's this one cool shot that we didn't make the film, unfortunately, but Leo's kind of walking away like cool guys that don't look at explosions type of move. He's got his sniper rifle and he's walking away, and this tank like drives into this barn, destroys it, like it just annihilates this barn. And I was like, man, what a cool shot. But I'm like, this doesn't make any sense for the film. So we unfortunately ended up on the cutting room floor. But anyway, so Rod was hugely instrumental in terms of getting me the period equipment that we needed, the locations that we needed, and then Greg kind of filled in the rest in terms of the guys, the uniforms, all the proper guns and whatnot, because those guys are so meticulous when it comes to the right era and the right gun, the right. They were sewing patches onto their jackets that fit the Regiment de la Chaudière, because a lot of them were most likely the Calgary Highlanders and stuff that's kind of more local to here, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So I was watching them literally like sewing patches onto their jackets, and they built. There's another couple shots that didn't make the film where there was like this as the tank was kind of rolling towards their base. There's a number of guys that are kind of scouting and stuff like that, and they built all this other stuff that was some of it was in the film, some of it didn't end up making it. But I was just really humbled and blown away by effort that those guys put into making this thing look as authentic as it could be for Sylvan Lake, Alberta, and I think it was 2019 or 2020 when we shot that stuff. I mean, the film couldn't have been anywhere close to what it was if it wasn't for those guys.
Yeah, like I said, it really did take you to that time and place where you were in World War II. So that was really cool. Where can people go to watch this film?
Yeah, that's the
because I
question.
had the luxury of seeing it at the premiere, but tell me where we can find it.
It's not available quite yet. We're still kind of working on maybe landing it on a streaming service or just kind of putting it up on YouTube. I would love to get it on a streaming service, just to kind of get a little more prestigious than YouTube. That's just my ego talking. But I think that we are, there's like a handful of shots in the film that I can't quite find who they belong to. And a streaming service just won't accept it unless I can find that kind of chain of title for those particular shots. I got a number of them from the come on, brain. The Canadian war propaganda. Anyway,
the archives.
The archives. They gave me everything that they had, and a lot of that stuff made it into the film. But there are just a few shots from, I think, from the Netherlands specifically that I just can't find the author to. So we're kind of working on that. I've got a producer who's from Zwolle who helped me out hugely on this film. Her name's Katinka. She's her and I are going to kind of sit down and see if we can figure out the rest of those little details, and then from there we can figure out kind of where it's going to go. But it's something I'm actively working on. So I would say in the next 2 to 3 months, it'll be available for everybody to watch.
And as soon as it is, we'll post about it. All of our listeners can hear it and see where they can find it. Before I let you get out of here, you had mentioned something at the premiere that struck me too. And again, a story I didn't know. What's your next project? Because this had a lot of people in the audience buzzing while you were talking about it. So
I think I was talking about the Sharon Kinney.
Yeah, we were talking about the High River, or not the Three Hills.
Oh, the Tabor.
Tabor. Yes.
Okay,
sorry,
okay.
not Three Hills. Tabor.
Yeah, Tabor. Okay.
Getting my small Alberta towns mixed up.
We're actually working on. I think we're working on 3 documentaries at the moment, but that one's kind of the one we just finished shooting reenactments for that one right before Christmas. So this is the Sharon Kinney story. And for those that don't know, there's a woman named Sharon Kinney who used to live in Kansas City, Missouri back in the 60s. And she, for whatever reason, killed her husband and blamed it on their 2-year-old child. And the cops were very skeptical about that, obviously, the child being 2, but they were able to put a gun in the child's hand and have the child pull the trigger and point it at somebody. So there's probable
enough
to get her off on that.
Yeah.
So she took the insurance money, went to go buy a new car. She fell in love with the car salesman, but I think he was married at the time, or he had a girlfriend. So she decided she was going to kill this woman to kind of free up her new boyfriend.
Right.
So she kills this person. They catch her. She goes to court, to trial, but the lawyer, one of the people on the jury, had already been connected to one of the lawyers that was in the case. So they had to kind of postpone that case for a while. And then while that was going on, she fled to Mexico with another boyfriend. And while she was in Mexico, she met another guy who was in Mexico, and she went up to his hotel room. They had some stuff going on. He got a little too frisky, so she killed him in the hotel room. And while that was happening, one of the guys who worked in the hotel came up after hearing all the noise. She shot that guy. Didn't kill him, but shot him. And then he called the police. She went to jail in Mexico for 5 years and then eventually escaped. And from there, we're not quite sure what happened, but eventually she made her way to Los Angeles, met a Canadian guy there, Canadian pilot. And they came back to Canada, to Tabor, Alberta, and she lived out the rest of her life in Tabor under another name.
Assumed name.
Yeah. But what's crazy about that is she was always talking about how she just wanted to get out of this small, because she wasn't in Kansas City. She was in a place called Liberty, which is the Airdrie Calgary of Kansas City to Independence, I should say. Independence, Missouri. Yes, sorry. I said Liberty before. So she was always talking about wanting to get out of this small town, and she eventually ended up back in the small town.
Yeah.
Smallest town in Alberta, basically. So that's a crazy story that we shot some interviews in Kansas City, then we shot some reenactments here in Alberta. We just kind of wrapped that up like kind of early December.
When can we look forward to this story being told?
That one we're working on it right away to get it out the door as soon as possible. It was a big story that a lot of people were interested in because the anonymous tip that came to the police department saying that the D. Glabus, whose gravestone is in Tabor, that's not D. Glabus, her name's Sharon Kinney. That information only became available kind of like January of last year, so about a year old now. So we jumped on it right away to kind of be first to
tell the story.
Out. Yeah.
Now, is it confirmed that was her?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we know 100% that was it. Wasn't a lookalike or wow.
No, that was her. Yeah.
You're really going down the tragically hip path of uncovering all these cool Canadian stories, even the slightly dark ones.
Yeah. Well, we've got a couple more feel-good stories. We're actually doing a documentary about the ship and anchor in Calgary.
Yes.
That's one we're actively working on right now. And but there are another couple true crime stories that I'm pursuing that are kind of based around Alberta as well.
So what drives you to be this storyteller? Like, I could see the fire in your eyes when you're talking about it and the passion. What drives you?
I think it's just that it's being a storyteller. One of my kind of stories that I always tell is back when I was working as a 3D modeler. After that company disbanded, a lot of guys went all over the place. Some went into video games, others went into feature films. And out of our small little crew, I think we had 15 at the time. 4 of them went to Weta, which is in New Zealand, and they were working on Lord of the Rings movies. So they kind of left our little crew here in Calgary, went to New Zealand, and they started
only one of the largest movies in the world ever produced.
All the Oscars, right?
Yeah.
It was the two Towers was the film that they all started working on, and then it ends up winning 9 Oscars or however many it ends up winning. So I'm messaging with my buddy. I'm living in Seoul at the time, and I'm messaging my buddy. I'm like, guy, you won all the Oscars, like unbelievable. And he's he was already a guy that I looked up to when we were working on these little projects. And his response was kind of like, yeah. And I went, hold on. No. You won all the Oscars. You're working on the biggest movie in the world. You're it doesn't get any more to the top than this. He's like, yeah, man, but you got to understand, I'm one of a couple thousand people. I worked on Legolas's cape. That's
the industry. Yeah,
it's the industry. And I was like, and I kind of sat back and I was like, man, if he's at the pinnacle, and he's not happy, what's my trajectory going to look like if I follow that? So I decided right there and then that I need to tell my own stories my way. And, if that means not getting into the unions and not working on these big A-list Hollywood blockbuster movies, then so be it. I'd rather be happy kind of grinding it out, telling my stories my way than one of many thousands working on, a small little piece of this film.
It seems that there's been a decentralization of arts and culture, if that makes sense, right? You used to go to LA if you wanted to make movies, or Nashville if you wanted to make country music. And then you start to see now with the proliferation of technology, people making good quality arts and culture products in the cities they want to be in. Do you see that trend kind of going global, or?
I mean, I would like to say yes. I'd like to say that you can make it as a filmmaker wherever you live, and I think for some of that's true. But we're also talking about AI and how that's kind of coming into the industry and really disrupting a lot of things, and people kind of just writing prompts and coming up with whole commercials or even films, right? So it's a really interesting time to be here. I dabble in AI a little bit, but I try to use it more as a tool as opposed to just like making the film for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
It's it's a little scary. It's a little challenging. It's a little exciting. It's but that's kind of always been that way. I feel, like a new camera comes out and everybody freaks out. Oh, it's going to be the game changer. It's going to change this,
Right.
that. It's going to change it. This new piece of software comes out and it freaks people out. So I hope that I hope that the hype of us, of AI turning into the Terminator and kind of dominating us all is further down the path. Maybe. I don't know where we sit on that timeline. But I hope that, we can kind of more just use AI as a tool as opposed to the entire piece, if that makes sense.
I think the only thing that's gotten better since AI videos came out is just the meme culture is now a little bit more creative than it used to be. Yeah. But I think there's always going to be a place for good stories with good cinematography. I think of what one of my new favorite shows is Pluribus, and just the visual cinematography in that show. If our listeners haven't watched it, just watch one episode and just see how beautifully shot that is. There's not a computer that's ever going to recreate that kind of creativity. Yeah. And I think there's always going to be a home for that. So I think the future, the Terminator future is a little bit further off than people like to give it credit for. Let's hope so, because I don't really want robot overlords. So
no, but at the same time, we seem to be heading that. I don't want to turn this into a whole AI thing, but it just seems weird to me that we're steamrolling as fast as we can towards AI kind of taking over all aspects of our life. And it's like the warnings are already there. The warnings were there in the 80s, guys. Like we can't head that
Battlestar
direction.
Galactica tried to tell us. This story doesn't end well.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully, like you said, we'll keep on making our own stories and kind of keeping the human aspect alive with that kind of thing, and we'll see what the future brings.
Jeremy, I love what you do. Can you tell people where we can find out more information about you? Where can people look you out? Where can potential clients come and find you?
Sure.
If you could give me all your socials here and where we could locate you. Besides just 3 doors down.
Yeah, just go to Chris's house. couple doors down is where I live. My website is dreadnaught.ca. I'm actively working on updating that as well. I've got the what's the analogy? The cobblers, the shoe repair guys. Children don't wear shoes, something, because I'm constantly working and not updating my website, but that will be updated soon. Dreadnaught.ca. I'm on Instagram, Dreadnaught YYC, Facebook as well, and where else am I? I think that's it. Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, probably those two. My website.
Awesome. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming in and talking with us here at Airdrie Inside.
Hey, my pleasure, man. It's been
perfect.
Great.
And we'll be right back with some more great episodes coming up soon.